Today's recipe is an apple crumble. So what we're going to be focusing on is that rubbing in technique that we've learned previously with the scones. So we've got a range of ingredients. We have got plain flour, sugar. We have also got a little bit of caster sugar separate for us to do the stewing of the apples. And we've got the butter, which we're going to use to make the crumble to do that coating. We've also got apples and blackberries I've got today to go in with that crumble, but you can choose any combination of berries to go with your apples, or you can just have the apples on their own. So first process that we're going to go through today is the rubbing in, the shortening of that flour to keep it short and crunchy, to get that crumble texture, and then I'll show you how to stew the apples before we bake the crumble together. So the equipment that's going to be required today is a mixing bowl for the crumble, a sieve for the flour, a spoon for when we're adding in the sugar, sharp knife and a chopping board obviously for the fruit, and then you do need a heat-proof dish, whether it be glass or pottery, just so that you can put that into the oven to bake the crumble at the end. So first thing that we're going to do is I will now go on to a close-up so that you can see how we create the crumble first of all with that rubbing in technique that we've done previously with scones. So first step will be to sieve the flour. So we just want to make sure that there's no lumps so that we can really coat this flour in the butter, and also to aerate it so that we have a nice light crumble. So once that is sieved in, we are then going to add in our butter. So as you can see, I've already cubed the butter just to make it easier. So nice small cubes. It must be refrigerated butter. We don't take it out to soften first of all. If it melts, it will mix with the flour rather than coating it. So what we want to do is create a waterproof coating. We want to basically give it a little bit of an anorak so that it stops the flour from absorbing any sort of moisture, which would then expand the starch within the flour. By putting the waterproof coating on, it keeps the flour short. It doesn't allow it to expand because no water gets in because of the waterproof coating of the butter. And this is what we call the shortening process. So we're keeping those gluten strands short to give that crumbly texture. So fingertips, don't want to be using the palms of our hands, that's where there's a lot of heat. If your hands are really, really warm, it might be worth rubbing them under cold water first of all. And we are using our fingers and our thumbs to twist. So you're wanting to use this kind of action with your thumbs and your fingers, and in between keeping that mixture cool by lifting it. So we're getting those air particles in between each time that we are rubbing in, so that we're keeping that flour and the butter cool so it doesn't melt the butter, to allow us to coat the flour with the butter and give it that waterproof coating. So I'm going to keep rubbing this, and what we want to do is look for a breadcrumb consistency. So the flour will no longer be seen, all you'll be seeing is the butter. So the mixture will go from a white mixture like this now with lumps of butter in it to something that will resemble breadcrumbs. So it'll be a yellowy colour, and they will look more like breadcrumbs rather than grains of flour. So I'll keep going like this, and then I will bring back the video once we have got to that stage. Now that I've rubbed in all of the butter, you can now see the yellow colour and the breadcrumb consistency or texture of the crumble. So what we're going to do now is the larger amount of sugar. So the sugar that's on the recipe with the flour and the butter is 75 grams, and that needs to then be added into the crumble. Just give that a quick stir around. Don't want to be handling the crumble any more than you have to, because obviously we don't want to melt that butter. So we're just mixing that around, and that's what's going to add a lovely sweetness to the crumble, but also will help with the colour because of the caramelisation of the sugar particles as well. So that's now done. That is the crumble finished. So I'm going to now show you how to prepare the fruit. With regards to the apples, what we want to do is quarter them the same as we would have done with our fruit salad, but then we're going to put them into dices rather than slices. If you want to, you can remove the skin of the apple, or before, with them being eating apples, you can actually leave the skin on. There's a lot of nutrients underneath the skin. By eating the skin, there's more fibre, so it is really, really good for you. And because it is an eating apple rather than a cooking apple, there isn't that worry with the bitterness and the really hard skin. So you want to do 4 or 5 different apples, and I'm going to leave the skin on them, but I will show you with a vegetable peeler how to do it if you want to remove the skins. So going away from yourself with the peeler, you want to slide the potato peeler away from you. You don't want to come towards yourself because that's dangerous for this part of the skin. These are very, very sharp. What they can do is cause quite a nasty cut. It wouldn't be a clean cut because obviously it's a peeler. So we want to peel away from ourselves, gradually rotating that apple around. Just being careful with your fingers that you're keeping your hands out of the way so that they don't get peeled as well. So you can peel up to the core and then slice them. Okay, just like that. So with regard to apples, whether it's got the skin on or skin off, we're going to dice it and then we're going to put it into, we're going to slice it, sorry, and then we're going to put it to dice it. So I'll go on to a close-up so that you can see what. So as with fruit salad, we use a bridge hold to start with the knife going through the bridge, straight away through the centre, and that then allows us a better work surface. So we've got a flat surface now to work with. Then again, we're going to cut in half using bridge hold before turning on an angle, claw grip, 45-degree angle, a little bit of maths for you, and then cut out the core so that we are left with this. Then for the crumble, we're going to cut it in half again and then pop it into bite-sized pieces like so. So about the size of an actual dice is probably ideal for this. And then they are going to go into the pan ready for stewing. So once I've prepared all of the apples, I will show you the next stages with regards to stewing the apples and adding in any berries. Final step before we put the crumble together, we want to stew our apples. So with the stewing, we just want to soften them very, very slightly. What we're going to do as well is add in the sugar so that sugar starts to caramelise and really sweeten them. When we're stewing, you do also need to add some moisture into there. So we're going to add a small amount of water. So we've got about 50 millilitres of water. And then we've got 25 grams of caster sugar or brown sugar is absolutely fine. And that's going to go on to number 4. So like we would use for frying, it's a medium heat, just to allow that water to heat up, the sugar granules to start to crystallise within the water and to slightly soften the apples. And I'm also going to add in my blackberries. So the blackberries, all I've done is cut them in half because they were rather big. So I'm going to allow this just to soften for a couple of minutes and then add these in afterwards, and that will be the base. As you can see, the apples have now been stewing for well over 5 minutes. I've added in the berries and the sugar, and the water has started to reduce down. So we're now going to start to build the crumble. But what I want to do first of all is preheat the oven. This crumble takes approximately 20 to 25 minutes. You want to see a golden crisp on the top. So you want to see that that crumble has gone completely golden on the top before you remove it, and you want to put it on 190 or gas mark 5. So preheating the oven, and then what I'm going to do is take the fruit and I'm going to spoon it into the bottom of the pan, the oven proof dish, and it wants to be able to fill the bottom completely. And then what we want to aim for is that none of this fruit will be seen at all. So the crumble mixture should completely coat the fruit to allow a really good quality finish. When you get a crumble, when it's complete and it's not been portioned out, all you should be able to see is the crumble. You shouldn't be able to see the filling at all. So all of the fruit is now into here, like so. And then I'm going to add in the crumble over the top. So I want to just scatter it carefully. The one thing you don't want to do is pat it down and flatten it. What we want to do is have a really good fluffy texture. So if you do need to move it around, just use your fingertips just to start to try and cover all of that fruit. Don't want to push it down because then obviously you don't get that lovely crumbly appearance to your very, very gently, smoothing that all around, but without flattening it, no pressure on it at all. And your crumble going into the oven should look something like that. So now I'll pop that into the oven and I'll show you the completed product in about 20 to 25 minutes. If you don't have the apples, or you don't want to do the apple part or the stewing part, there is a shortcut that you can do. You can buy fruit pie fillings, different bases. You can get cherries, you can get apple, you can get apple and blueberries or apple and blackberries. They will go in, just bear in mind they have got quite a higher content of sugar. So this is a healthier alternative with regards to the crumble, because we are using lower amount of caster sugar, and we're just relying on the refined sugars that are in those apples and the blackberries to provide that sweetness. So these are going to go into the oven now, and then I will show you the completed crumble in about 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, the crumble is now golden and actually just oozing the sauce that has been created from the apples and the blackberries around the outside. So I'm going to take it out and then show you the finished product. So as you can see, we've got the golden crumble, and my sauce has just started to seep around the outsides. But that'll be perfect now with custard, ice cream, or even whipping or double cream.